Hello and welcome to another Gamasutra interview. Today I'm talking to Danny Day from QCF Design. Did I get that right? I think so.
You did indeed.
Excellent. About Desktop Dungeons, which has been around for quite some time. So what I'll do is I will start playing this as a visual aid for you guys watching. And hopefully what you could just do, Danny, is essentially just describe what the game is about for people who have missed it.
Okay, well, Desktop Dungeons first appeared in 2010 on a game development forum that I was running at the time. A friend of mine, Rodane, just kind of disappeared for 48 hours, came back, and he had this little prototype, and it sort of just kept growing and growing over time. And the idea was to build a roguelike that you could play in 10 minutes. And it ended up turning into sort of this roguelike puzzle game. And one of the neat things that drove the core of how the game evolved was that there was this idea that exploration was how you regenerated. So there wasn't really sort of time ticks in a game, which is usually how a roguelike works. There was instead just a single screen of 20 by 20 tiles. And each time you explored a tile, you would regenerate health and mana according to your level from that tile. And that turned the entire thing into sort of this Minesweeper-esque sort of resource-based game that just people really, really enjoyed playing. So we carried on working on it, and then we spent more money and carried on working on it, and then we carried on working on it even more when we didn't have any money. And then suddenly there was an IGF award, and now the game's out on Steam, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say because when was it? It was originally 2010, I think, that the first build was out. Is that right? And then
Yeah,
IGF was in 2011. So, I mean, it's been a lot. Is it sort of nice to finally have it out to the public?
yeah. Well, I mean, this is sort of I feel like this is the game that we always really wanted to give to people. So the initial builds, it was like, okay, let's figure out how we can, what this game wants to be. Let's figure out how we can make this game really, really fun. And we just carried on adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. And that's actually one of the things that was really cool is we had this open beta process where we just, every week we would release a new build of the game. So from, I think, May of 2011, we ran out of funds. And so we put the game up for pre-order. And suddenly people just started buying the game. I actually climbed on a plane to go from South Africa to E3, or South Africa to LA for E3. We were invited to showcase the game as part of the Indiecade showcase there. And we couldn't really afford the trip, but I used all my dad's frequent flyer miles. And I actually met him in the airport in Dubai. He was flying from South Africa to I think he was flying to the Solomon Islands or something. So he was going east and I was heading west from Dubai onwards. So we spent a couple hours in the airport, and I just remember getting off the plane and suddenly realizing that we could afford this trip. So that was quite neat.
Yeah, sounds amazing. I mean, for people who are watching now, should probably sort of try to explain. So, the way I think about this game, which might completely not be anything like you think of it, but I sort of think of it in like the way that it's kind of like an RPG version of Minesweeper. That's really weird, but it reminds me of the way I used to just sit and just for hours just play Minesweeper and over these randomly generated levels with clicking on grids and trying to unlock as much as I could possible before I tried to actually make some sort of risk assessment of what I should actually be doing. I mean, what's the kind of elevator pitch style thing that you give when you're trying to explain how this actually plays?
It depends on who you're talking to. I think if we're given that we're talking to game designers and game developers, I'd say it's a puzzle roguelike that's designed to be played in 10 to 15 minutes. Everything is randomly generated, and there's an overworld where you unlock things as you bring back monster heads and sell them for money on the weird monster head black market.
Amazing. I mean, is it after you've been working on it for so long, is it semi sort of a relief that it is sort of coming to an end now, or have you actually enjoyed it that much that it's actually a little bit sad?
I think it's sort of both. I'm enjoying people being able to get hold of it. I'm enjoying it being on Steam immensely because you get feedback, and watching Let's Plays and stuff like that of people playing the game is always really rewarding.
Yeah.
I still also enjoy really playing the game. It's sort of a bit weird. I mean, you've been working on it for 3 years, but I still just boot it up and play it on my own. every
Yeah.
once in a while, just to see where it's like. And obviously, we finished the music and the soundtrack is in now, and the polish is where we wanted it to be, and it just the whole game feels a lot better than pretty much everything, every version of it that we've put out in the past.
Mm.
So, I mean, I go back now and I play some of the early alphas, and oh, who's that? That's Lord God. Okay,
Lord Gob.
he's very, very, very upset.
Yeah, well, I managed to kill the goats earlier. The goats were quite upset. Now this guy's, and I've killed a banker as well, a vampire banker.
Yes.
He wasn't very happy either. Yeah.
Well,
Uh,
the
what's,
Financemancy was a lot of the writing in the game comes directly from Rodane, and he's a trained journalist.
yeah,
And basically, I think we looked at it, and there's almost a novel's worth of writing that just has gone into the game so far. So localization would be good fun.
and I mean, what's the plan for you guys now? Are you planning to kind of be updating this game, or are you actually now thinking about going off and doing other stuff, basically?
Well, the big thing that everybody always asks for is when's it coming out on mobile, and that is the thing we're currently working on. We're just trying to make sure that everything is solid and functional, and we've got a couple of interface tweaks that we feel we want to make.
Yeah.
The game's definitely coming to mobile and iOS, Android, the whole tablet dance. That's the plan. And people talk about Linux. We'll see about a Linux build as soon as we finish updating our Unity. Beyond that, I don't really know. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things ideas that we had for the game for DLC or new classes that we would like to expand on and stuff. Because, like I said, you sort of, if you've been working on something for so long, you know that the different kinds of play styles and stuff are available, and there's still sort of, that's the weird thing. I mean, we have 18 classes now, and there's 7 different races across those classes, so you can, you kind of have this combinatorial explosion of different ways you can play, and there still feels like there's unique design space here.
Yeah.
So there's still unique things that we could approach and different ways that we could build for you to play the game. So we'd like to explore those, I think. So we might do some character-based DLC, see about making the Witch Doctor and see about building some of the other classes that we wanted to make.
Yeah.
But, I'm keen to start doing just a lot of prototyping, and I'm really looking forward to the game jam. The global game jam in January. That's going to be good fun. I think at that point I will have probably had enough of a holiday in December to just be keen to work on more games again.
Yeah, I mean, is the idea of working on something completely new after all this time just like massively exciting now?
It's really exciting. It's also a little daunting because I know how to solve desktop dungeon shaped problems.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, we should just go in here and change this and change this and change this and it'll work. Looking at an entirely new game from scratch can be a little bit scary.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, when I've talked to other developers who have been working on games that long, it's sort of like an end of the road, and they're like, oh well, what do I even do now? How do I make another game?
Yeah, you have to reset everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the game being out on mobile as well. I think that's always a good fit for it. I mean, a lot of people always ask us, when is it coming out on tablet? When can I play this on my iPad? And the goal is very.
Yeah, it just seems like it's a massively good fit for mobile, really. Because I wasn't sure where your mobile plans were up to really with it, and but yeah, it seems like mobile is, especially just because it's kind of made for it in a way, really. In my head, I sort of feel like it seems like it's actually more of a mobile game than a PC game in a way.
Yeah, in some
Especially
way.
because you were saying, about the sort of small play sessions as well, which again is perfect for mobile, really.
Yeah, you kind of just want to boot it up and play for 15 minutes, then go do something else. I think one of my favorite quotes so far about the game has been Desktop Dungeons is this perfect game where you can approach 10 to 15 minute quests in chunks of 4 hours.
Yeah, it's very much that kind of game.
That was my guy.
So another thing I wanted to ask you about was just in general being a game developer in South Africa. Because in general we don't really hear about that many developers or games coming out of South Africa, but I've sort of looked into it quite a lot, and there are these little smatterings of developers going on. I mean, is it difficult being a developer in a region where there aren't so many kind of well-known developers coming out of it?
I think it's difficult in that you often don't have much input, and you don't realize sort of how isolated you are from what's potentially out there.
Yeah.
For instance, I mean, when we got nominated for the IGF, we'd never been to the States. Some of us had been overseas, but as you know, all of us had never been to the US, and we'd never been to anything like GDC and never seen anything like the IGF. And so us suddenly rocking up in San Francisco, sort of these wild-eyed, confused, like rubes, I guess, from Africa, walking around going like, everything's so huge, look how big these buildings are. That was really amazing. And then suddenly just being exposed to a place where everybody in some way, shape or form was involved in not just liked games, because in South Africa, sort of when you're socializing, you might find a few people who enjoy games. And so you'll go to gamer meetups and stuff like that. But suddenly it wasn't just people who liked games, it was people who were involved in actually making them. And just the sheer size and supportiveness of the indie community that grows around the IGF was incredible. And we have a couple of local game development forums and communities that we're running. We're actually looking at, we've just formed a non-profit organization here in South Africa, Make Games SA, and we are looking at sending a trade delegation with help from the local government to GDC next year. So that should be really good. I basically, to get all the local developers, because there's quite a few now. That's one of the nice things that's been happening, is that by building these communities over time, because I mean, I sort of accidentally started one in 2005, and that grew into a career, that grew into game design consulting, and that grew eventually into QCF and now Desktop Dungeons. And we sort of just now are at the point where there's a whole slew of really interesting games coming out of South Africa. I mean, just off the top of my head, in terms of things that are being interesting, there's Pixel Boy, they just got greenlit. There's Viscera Cleanup Detail, they got greenlit in sort of record time, and they also they did that thing where they tied in with Shadow Warrior with Devolver Digital.
Oh yeah.
Sort of like, clean up after Shadow Warrior, which is it's a perfect concept for how Viscera as a game works.
Yeah.
There's Force, which is also from a studio down here in Cape Town. They're doing really great things, and they were at Minecon with us. There's Stasis, and that's currently doing a Kickstarter, and that's doing really well. And that's from a solo developer up in Johannesburg, or brothers, up in Johannesburg. And they just announced that the composer who did the music for the original Fallout games is actually composing music for them.
Oh wow.
Based off of what he saw of the game. So very much like what happened with us. I mean, we were at GDC, and sort of straight after GDC, Danny Baranowski comes up to us and emails me and says, "So who's doing the music for your game?" And I'm like, you, if you want. And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And he halfway through, he suddenly pulled in Grant Kirkhope, and between the two of them, they've produced this amazing soundtrack, and it just adds to the game, and it sort of grows the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's sort of like, I feel like in South Africa now we're at a point where there's a lot of momentum,
Yeah.
and what we have to do is we have to keep that momentum going.
Yeah.
So we've got to try and make sure that people are interested, and at the same time that we're doing entertaining and interesting things with our games, because we sort of have this interesting, or we have this opportunity where we don't necessarily have an existing game development community. We don't have people who understand traditional game development, outside of one or two console focused studios that were here for a while, but have since been almost completely shut down. We don't have very many sort of publisher-centric business models, so everybody who's doing interesting things in South Africa is essentially the definition of indie, because we're so far away from the traditional industry that we have this opportunity to just focus on producing interesting games, do everything via digital distribution, and try and make a name for ourselves as sort of like a productive country that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. I mean, it gives us the chance to not get stuck. in a publisher centric
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think I've managed to mess this level up. I can't really see a way out of this now. Cause
I can't see where you know.
I think the end is nigh, to be honest.
Well, you stepped up. Rather keep your potions for the banker. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to kill him now, though.
oh, you don't have any more health potions.
No.
Well, you do have that Lemicy, that glyph that allows you to explore things that you haven't seen yet.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. Unfortunately, he's in the way. So.
You can Lemicy will let you regenerate anyway.
Oh really?
You can hit him.
Okay.
You survive a hit from him? Yeah, you can survive what, 2 hits?
Yeah.
So I would say try and do as much damage as possible, and then see if you can regenerate faster than he does with Lemicy. Maybe fireball him now?
Oh no, because he's got some magic resist on him as well, hasn't he? This isn't gonna go well.
Oh no, the fireballing is just to make him regenerate less.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think it's gonna happen.
You're slowly whittling him down.
Let's give him some more fireballs.
Now just regenerate with Lemicy and trade more damage. It's a complicated game.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I think I've had it now.
Decent half health. You've still got a lot more black space to explore. I would say you can do this.
You reckon?
Yeah, if you hit him, fireball him, regenerate. Hit him, fireball him, regenerate. That'll work. Because fireball makes things regenerate slower.
Yeah. Just keep watching for the word safe.
Yep. That's also that's an interesting thing. I mean, we spend a lot of time trying to make because the game can be so complicated and so intricate.
Yeah.
And also trying to make it be as accessible as possible. There's a lot of time that you want people to understand the game as quickly as possible. So there's a lot of information that we're trying to throw at people, while at the same time trying to keep it accessible, and that can be kind of tricky.
Yeah, I mean, I know with these kind of roguelike style games, I find some of them just completely overwhelm me with all the menu rubbish that's going on, etc. I like it to just be simple, just be right there. Tell me if I'm going to die or not. That's nice.
Yeah. And so there's all these interface tweaks and additions that we've been making as we've been going through the beta. I can't go back and play some of the alpha versions of the game now because they just don't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I think you've got this.
I think it looks like I'm going to do it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you've got this. Ooh.
Oh. There we go. Amazing.
Nice.
Destroyed him. Well, there we go. Right, well, that's probably a good place to stop if there's any. So yeah, thank you very much for talking to me. And Desktop Dungeons is out on Steam right now and is, as you can see, clearly worth grabbing.
Pick it up and tell your friends and tell everyone, and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is a labour of love. So yes, thank you very much for watching.